Okay, before the break, we were looking at a couple things, and right before the break, I asked you to install a text editor if you didn't already have one. Follow along an example, and we're just going to kind of walk through a simple thing, just the basic idea of a batch script. There are similar things for all of our operating systems, but those instructions we put in a terminal, we might find ourselves doing the same ones over and over and over again. It's going to show up even more next week when we look at networking things, because that's stuff we do in a terminal. And if you're running a network, you're probably doing the same things over and over and over and over again. So it's nice to have them where you don't have to hit run once and then all the stuff that you keep doing repeatedly happens. Little scripts like that can be incredibly useful. I was just going to do a small example and talk about what a batch file is. So on Windows, someone asked about Windows versus Mac. Everybody nodded their head for Windows in the classroom. Mac has a similar thing. I'll do a quick shell script after we do a Windows one to talk about that. Or show you what to do on a Mac for the slight changes. But the idea is the same. Those instructions that we put into a terminal, we can just put those into a script that will run them all at once. So we'll need to open a terminal, which I usually do on a Windows machine by pushing Windows X to get to the management functions and open terminal. You can just search for PowerShell or command prompt. CMD is the name of it. Navigate to any directory and type either PowerShell or CMD in the address bar in File Explorer. It'll automatically open that. Your system will definitely know it, but some place to enter instructions. So I'll go back to that example I did in preview. So if we wanted to like start Chrome, and I'm going to change this in just a second. That'll pop that up. Chrome is something special though. Chrome is a very, very common thing. It knows about it. The computer might not always know about it. So I'm going to do a quick step here for something the computer might not know about. So Zoom. Okay, Zoom is not recognized. So it doesn't know how to start Zoom on its own. So to do that, we would set what's called environment variables. And that's basically the things that our terminal knows about. Command prompt or PowerShell, bash on a Linux machine or C# on a Mac machine, on a Mac. Whatever your system is, what the main terminal that you input instructions in has a similar thing. Windows and environment variables are under advanced system settings. So you would search for advanced system settings. There's lots of ways to get to it. And this little dialog pops up, and under advanced, there's a button for environment variables. These are basically the variables that we store within a command prompt or PowerShell. A very important one is path. You'll see it in the window at top for the user, or the window at the bottom for the system. It looks at the system first, and then looks at the specific user ones afterwards. And if I open that up, you'll notice that it's a bunch of file directories. So the environment variables are saying, look in this folder. Just saying which folder to look in to find that thing. So if I wanted to add Zoom, I could just come over here and navigate to where Zoom's installed, which I assume is program files and program files x86. Those two folders we do not have write access on. Most of your operating system does not have write access on. It's actually a question in this class that shows up a lot, but I probably should have double checked when it shows up. Pretty much only your antivirus software has write permission in those, and it will try to avoid writing in those. So when we install software, they go in those folders because nothing can write to it. But the fact that the antivirus software has more permission, higher permission than we do, that defines antivirus software as system software, not application software. Right? We don't do stuff with antivirus, right? We install it and let it run. Versus Microsoft Excel, where we install it and then we open it up, open and save, and edit, and all that stuff constantly, that's application software. That question in one of the quizzes gets people every time this class runs. Always forget to mention it in advance. But for program files x86, most of your operating system cannot even write to those folders. Only a few things can, and your antivirus software happens to be one of them. That's why it counts as operating system software. Even we just choose which one it is. That's why it seems different. But in one of those, it's probably Zoom. Not in that one. And yeah, we install stuff there because it I don't see Zoom in this one either. Overlook it in the other one. Well, I'll go to journal. I'll point to journal instead. That's so journal, and then almost all of them. There's this folder bin, and so like these would be the executables that actually run. So I wanted to actually run one of those from the command prompt. I could just take and copy this and paste it into that one of the slots on that environment variable. So like any programming languages you put on your computer, this is where your system goes to look for them. It goes to look for them in the path variable. And it is called path on every operating system. So we just hit OK and come back out of it. Chrome is special. Chrome's obviously already in there. I will type it out fully for an example. So under program files, there's a folder called Google and a folder called Chrome, and a folder called application, and here's where chrome.exe is. So that's what Chrome, they just already included that shortcut because that's such well-known software. But if it wasn't as well-known software, we would just grab this, copy this address, and instead of start Chrome, we'd say start all of this / chrome.exe. So just type in the word Chrome as an abbreviation for that. Oh, and notice there's a space in there. Or in the terminal, things are space delimited. So if there's a space, you want to put quotation marks around it. And then maybe we want to do something like set up our homework, right? Or sit down and do homework. So we'll probably need our ivylearn.ivtech.edu, docs.google.com, which I spelled wrong beforehand, maybe an editor, and maybe jump over to YouTube. We'll add that other stuff later. All right. Okay, I don't know why I'm just gonna take that out. I'll just go to Ivy Learn. And we have that instruction to open up the page in Ivy Learn. Jump right to it. And we're gonna do that every time we sit down and do homework, along with some other stuff, right? So instead of typing that instruction every time, it'd be a lot nicer to have a file where we can put that. And that's what a batch file is. It's just a bunch of these instructions over and over again. Maybe it's for programming classes, so you can open Sublime with a new file, .py, start a Python script. In a class studying scripting in Python. Things that you're going to do consistently, we can consolidate any of our instructions here. Stuff that we're going to see next week. You need to check the configurations and then run the check your local configuration and then check and see what all other machines your machine currently knows about on the network. That's something you're going to do a lot as a network administrator. We're going to see that next week. Control C is cancel in every terminal. If you're doing something needed to stop, Control C, the normal copy thing, is your cancel command. Do you have a question or you just stretch it? So when we have a lot of those things, we can put them in our text editors. I'm going to use Sublime, but whatever text editor you're in, type in ASCII. We're typing ASCII code. The first thing we want to type is at echo off. And here in a moment, I will come back and remove that line to show you why that's the first one the first thing we want to type every time. I'm gonna go ahead and save, because right now we probably didn't get anything fancy about it. It's just the default color for the letters written there. So I'll save it. I'm gonna go over to my working directory and I'm gonna call this mclass.bat. So the important part there is make sure you give it the .bat extension, short for batch. And down here, you might see a whole bunch of things down here. Could go choose a batch file from this list. A lot of people want to do that. The second box here, that's actually just a filter. It doesn't apply to what we're saving. That only changes what we see. So like if we're in the thing looking at a whole lot of files and want to see what's there, what types of files are there, this is actually only a filter that changes what we see. It doesn't matter what's written there, just make sure you type in the right extension. And the computer knows some of them. For a batch file, you definitely want to use the one the computer knows, because that's going to be for an automated process. We need the computer to recognize this one. Those are arbitrary. We can make up whatever we want on them. The actual stuff we type in there is still the same. So the first part is for the human. So like in this case, in class, that's purely for the human. And then the extension is really just for the computer, and it lets the computer know what type of file it is, so it knows what to do with it by default. And double click on it, like for .bat, it knows that it's a batch file, so we can just double click on the icon and it'll run. Otherwise, we have to do extra steps. We have to override it and tell the computer that it's a batch file later. So giving it that extension, you see the color changed. In that first line, we get 3 different things that obviously mean something. So orange means something, the command we wrote turned blue, and then the value we put in that command, or really the parameter we passed, the argument we sent to fill the parameter for that function turned red. So all the colors mean something there. If we come over here and look back at where I saved that, it has that gear icon. You've probably seen that on your Windows machine before, that particular icon. So a clear indication that Windows knows what to do with that file. I'll start with a comment. We talked about comments some the other day, the lines of code that will be ignored. It's REM, short for remark. That gives us a comment. This is a comment. Notes for the humans. Read. You're just going to ignore the comment, or in this case, a remark, because that was actually named for the world at large settled on the word comment for that. Remark was another one of the options. Echo, the thing that I just turned off earlier, echo means to print to the screen, to send it back, to send something back. So we could echo words. That's the standard test you've probably heard before. Hello world actually came from a commercial, but if we can print those words to the screen, that means everything's configured correctly. We always want to do a small configuration check first, instead of doing a whole bunch of big stuff and then learn that we have things configured wrong and it's not going to run. So I'm going to save that. And there's another step. This is going to go quick. It might hardly show up on the video. If you watch that screen, if I come over here and double click this, the command prompt opened very briefly there. It did not stay open because we got to the end of the instructions. It print hello world. So it did that. And then there wasn't anything else to do, so it closed it out. A very useful instruction is going to be pause. Now we'll print the words hello world and then pause, which is actually another one that you would have seen the result of before. I'll go run it now. It prints those words, and then that press any key to continue. I assume everybody has seen press any key to continue message before, right? That's where that comes from. Still the one program many, many decades ago now. So looks like configuration worked here. For those who are able to, those rolling along, get that to work. Let me take out this first one. And yeah, there's this one is going to be for points. I think I just made it over to break. I put 15 on there, so it's not a lot of points, but still a few. Not many compared to like the regular lab point value and stuff like that. I'm going to take off that echo off, because if we don't turn echoes off, it tells us everything it did. So the first thing it did is it tells us it created a comment. And then it tells us that it went to this directory and ran this instruction, then shows the result from that instruction. So if we don't turn echo off, it tells us everything we want to do, which is something that you will often do with these, right? So let me hit Control-Z to undo that. Because depending on what you're doing, a lot of times you might come in and turn that into a comment, switch that to a comment to turn them off, so that when you run it, you do see every little thing that was happening, figure out what's going on. Especially useful for debugging, finding errors. Maybe I spelled echo wrong. And if I'm doing this, I spelled echo wrong, so I do this, get an error message. Something went wrong. Not sure what went wrong. A bug worked into the program. So does anybody know where that terminology comes from? It's a name you all should definitely know. I like to introduce the name somewhere in this class. This is a good week to do that. Bug? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the original computer bug. So this was back in the late 1940s. It was after the top secret military projects, which the person I'm going to talk about was part of those. So from the very beginning, where's the images? There was a problem. I'm just going to pull her name up first. A name you should know. So Grace Hopper, which, by the way, eventually became Admiral Grace Hopper in the 50s and 60s. So a woman that made it to the rank of Admiral in the 1950s and 60s tells you somebody exceptional, right? So this happened after this top secret projects. It was on a Harvard Mark III, so that would have been around 1947. Something was wrong. And yeah, she was on those top secret projects, so she was one that's been doing it from the very beginning, when it was just that one of the many doomsday weapons in World War II. But a couple years afterwards, she was obviously working on the big public ones, and on a Harvard Mark III, there was a problem. And the people that were working on computers, not computer, original computer bug. The people that were working on computers at the time, they knew their code was right. She was involved in the project. She knew her code was right. There was no doubts on that. Right? It was a woman who reached the rank of admiral in the 1950s America. She did not make a mistake with their code. So they couldn't figure out what was wrong. It wouldn't produce the right output. So she sat down, and everybody else took a couple days off while she took the machine apart and put it back together. Took the machine apart, went through every single circuit in there, and discovered that a moth had been attracted to the warmth from the vacuum tubes and created a short. It's a military project, right? She's a military person, so she has to report on that. So she just taped the moth to a piece of paper and said she had to debug the machine. That's where that word comes from. But also, a name you should know when studying computers, because she did a whole lot of this stuff came from her. it's progressed, right? It's been building for 80 years since then, but coming from her ideas. So we still use that term. We need to debug our thing. Ours isn't an actual bug, just a typo in this case. So if you want to print things out, use the word echo. So the general test there work, regular work goes. So I don't know, maybe a homework example. So time for some homework. Echo that out. And there's a couple more instructions on here, right? But it's always good to run a test every chance you get. If you can test after every single line, go ahead and do so, because if a bug shows up, you know what line it had to have shown up in. If you've only typed one line of code since the last test run that worked, there's only one possible place that bug could have come from. So I'm going to hit time for some homework, double click that, see those words on the screen. So I guess if we're doing homework, we need to start Chrome, which that one's common enough. We can just start it. If you like Firefox, I believe you can just say start Firefox. I forgot to install it on my computer and check. Start Edge if you want to use Edge for some reason. Whatever browser you like. And if not, you can do that whole file path thing like we did earlier, which probably not on my thing. I'll do it with the whole file path again. So you go to where it's installed. Chrome is in program files. Most of your software is going to be in program files. And either add it as an environment variable, or and the environment variable tells it what folder to look in, or you can just copy that whole thing and paste it in here. And from that folder, we want the chrome.exe application to run. If that is put in the environment variables, which again, these are terminal instructions, so notice space delimiting things. And there's a space in those file names. If you have spaces in any folder or file name, you can marks around it to say it is one thing. It's kind of like saying quotas on there being a space here. It's not a separator. And then I want to run chrome.exe from that. That's the long way of doing it. I'll go ahead and type out the whole thing, because not all of the software you might want to start is going to do that. And I was going to ask that before you submit it, do one that's not an R-class example, at least one that's not an R-class example. Think of something that's useful, put a comment about it to tell me what you're opening up, or maybe why it would be a useful thing to add in there. So that'll start Chrome. This is the time we could run a test. I'll go over here and double click it. That just went. I didn't open Chrome. I take the exe out there. Doesn't seem to want to start Chrome. So environment variables can be a little bit better. I'm going back to just abbreviating here. I think I probably spelled it wrong. Oh, wait, I see what I did. I just put in the start this program. Or did that not start? Okay. I need to switch that to open. Nope. Should be start. Let's see what this does. I don't think this is gonna work. Oh, okay. Sorry, take out the keyword start. If you put the whole file path, right, start is just for the shortcuts. Different languages blend back and forth together. I was thinking that was the other system. So if you want to do, if you have it on your environment variables and want to do a shortcut to it, you can just say start. But if you're putting in the whole file path, just type it there. Then we can pass in some extra things like we were seeing earlier. Go ahead and open up ivylearn.ivytech.edu. And notice that the space is limited. So after starting Chrome, put a space and then that. Let's see if that'll work. Might need to go back to start Chrome. Oh yeah, that worked. So that jumps right over to where our software is. And then there are ways to pass the password. I'm going to skip that for now because we have to do a whole bunch of passing the password is much complicated, much harder than it was when batch files were invented. It's easier in a PowerShell script, a .ps1 script, because we actually have a modern credential object. But sending a password was a lot easier back in the late 70s, early 80s when this was created than it is today. So it takes a whole lot of steps in a batch script, but y'all click that login button. And I think most people probably have our password saved to our browser anyway, right? So we just click a button. We might need some other stuff. So maybe I'm going down only type Sublime. I believe that'll go ahead and start my text editor. I won't need to put start there. So let me go run this. So open up the browser, yeah, and then jump back over to Sublime, which if I close this, we probably want that in a new file. Let me close that one for a second. Double click that and open up the text editor. And this is, I wanted to do that in part for a nice little, something very useful for anybody that's heading down a software development path. So now I can come back over here and I can't just click on that batch file to run it. They moved the menu with Windows 11. If you go to show more options, you'll notice there's an edit option. That probably opens it with Notepad. We can get back in and edit it that way. If you right click and there should be an open with, along with the edit, there's open, print, edit with. It gives me a couple places to edit with. I don't see open with, so I'm going to go back in, do Sublime, and just use the open thing here. Open that script we're working on. And you'll see it took a second to get that open. So a tip for software developers, it took me more years than it should have to finally realize I should do this every time, is I'm going to have Sublime open this file right here. Go C:, users, print, I should probably just go copy the address, right? So over here, I'm going to copy the address to where this file is at. And then somewhere in your software for when you're developing it, have an instruction to open the one you're editing. Because sometimes you'll have things like batch files that aren't easily brought back into your editor. /in-class.bat. I save that and close it, so it's closed. Now when I run it, opening this batch file back up is there. So that's just a little tip for anybody heading down a path where you're going to be doing lots of scripting and stuff. Is we can comment that line out later, but go ahead and put a line in that opens the script you're working on in itself. It seems like a recursive call, something like that. So then we have maybe a couple other, we can add some other files too in a space, and new file.txt, new script.py, and we could just new program.java, I'll just open a whole bunch of files every time. Kind of like homework assignments for IT stuff, right? Might have something in mind and files you want to open, things like that. I'll just leave it open this time. And over here, close that. And when I run it, get all these new files open. Something that would go with the homework. Something might be useful. Sometimes we need a distraction though, right? We need to step away and think. So let's go ahead and include a distraction in here. I come back over to Sublime. You'll notice that I just closed that, but all those files that were open are still open in here. So the text editors will remember, good text editors will remember that. So we have the Ivy Learn, or maybe check email too, right? AT2S:// I don't know why I missed that, but y'all know what a web address looks like, right? 2023 America, I'm sure everybody's seen that before. Maybe also go to my.ivtech.edu so we can check our email. This one would need some adjustment as well, because since the browser would sign us into both when we sign into one or the other, it would trying to do them simultaneously would mess up that background thing. So that might not be the best idea, but just showing it for examples here. We're going to close this, do this, and go back to Sublime. So there's our homework and the email. So we can do our school stuff. Maybe we want to do something a little more interesting. So I'm going to open Chrome again. Which opening Chrome again, hopefully y'all already realize that since it's already open, that's just going to make a new tab. Tell it to run again, it's going to be like, oh, it's open. So I'll just do this and go to another page. Maybe we need a distraction. So maybe youtube.com. Well, we can do more than that. What's the word I want? Result. I think results. So yeah, I had to think about it. So /results, and then we type search_query, question mark. So that's like a hook. So this is different than the order. So if we enter a search query, we'll get back some results. And there's a question mark in there. I like to think that is a hook. This is called a data query on our URL. It's like we're hooking some extra data on. So search query equals, I don't know, funny plus cat plus videos. That way we have something funny to look at when we need to break from our homework. So when we save that, it should open all that stuff up and jump us right to those search results. Notice how it filled out the search bar, and when you can look at it, if you fill out a search bar and hit enter, look at what happens in the URL. That passes as a GET post. It's not scary, we can see what the search results bring back. So I just went ahead and typed that in there. So the results of a search query, that might be a good way to read that, on funny cat videos. Whoops. Okay, let me stop Teams real quick. Close that. Sorry, I have to worry about that. I sometimes get confidential information and things that are protected under FERPA and HIPAA and other laws and Teams, and every once in a while I forget to close it before class. And Teams won't stop turning notifications on. Can't stop chat rooms from sending you notifications. Be nice if you could, and then they just be there when we get back, but I see pictures of dogs and stuff, other things that aren't cat videos, but we got those search results and sort of ready to do the homework now. Let's see if this works. I sign in to Ivy Learn, which I think was that one. They're gonna go ahead and log me in here, no. Okay, and then reloading the other page. So yeah, we could pass in the reload instruction if we were passing credentials and stuff. What we did there, there's multiple ways to do it. Actually, the best way would probably be like we did the YouTube video. Open up Ivy Learn, passing your credentials, and then 2 or 3 steps later, open up My Ivy so that it's had time to propagate through the browser. Yeah, and it's those terminal instructions, the navigate to this directory. Oh, we need a place to work do our homework too. I'm gonna take these extra files out of here. I'll put it up here. Just I'm gonna jump around in out of order, which is something else for software development. The computer needs it in a specific order when it's finished. But that order is probably not the order we think of it in. We have arrow keys and a mouse, we can put our cursor anywhere. So it is far more productive to bounce around and put it together in the order you think about it in, and just make sure the final result is in the computer order the computer needs, as opposed to like your English essay where you're just going to write left to right, top to bottom, the whole thing, right? So bounce around and put it together in the order that just naturally flows out of you. So I took all those out. We need a place to do our homework as well, right? A place to store it. So make dir. I'm gonna go to C:/users/rank. I'm looking at the line below the working folder I have. So copy over to wherever your working folder is, /documents/delete/ new homework. Now we have a folder to do all of that stuff in, and then we could do change directory so that everything happens afterwards happens in that folder and stuff like that. Just start building up those instructions for the things that we're going to do over and over and over again. Close that because it's going to reopen. Dios. What did I type Dios? Has to be at the end of videos. I don't know why it got those couple random words at the end, but it did for some reason. Does that process make sense? So try to add one thing to that and then submit it for some points. It's not a lot of points. The in-class stuff, I'm not trying to cause stumbling blocks or cause a big dip in somebody's grade if they have other stuff to do, because I completely understand life happens. I like to work these assignments in. There's going to be another one in module 7. I like to work these in as reminders that even though the courses are usually planned out in advance, things can still change. So don't stop, don't at least periodically looking at the course once a week or so to make sure there's not any changes. I'm doing it mostly for a reminder for that. But try to add one new thing, and then there's I created the homework submission. So one new thing could be copying what's there, right? Navigate your browser to add another tab to your browser, create another folder, right? Or if you have several classes, right? Create an Informatics 109 folder, and English 111 folder, Math 136 folder, all of that, which actually I haven't seen anybody turn in that foundational assignment So along with this 15 points, if you do a batch file for that foundational assignment, I'll give you an extra credit on there as well. So extra credit if you do a batch file for that. And I put it right there in module 4. Let me go in here and edit this. So please add at least one more instruction to the example from class and upload the batch file. Here. That looks grammatically correct. And if you want to also do a batch file for that foundational assignment this week, which was making folders and put files inside of them, that would be a great practice of batch files. Need some extra credit points for that. Windows isn't our only operating system, so we also have Linux and Mac OS and others. Technically, there are others that exist, but we actually we also use Linux and Mac OS. So along with batch files, Linux has shell scripts. So I start my terminal, I'm in Windows terminal, so I have several Windows subsystem for Linux. It started a couple years ago. Windows includes Linux machines anymore. We will see that in module 7. If I go over to Kali, that'll work. So go over to Kali Linux machine, anything here. Linux uses shell scripts, or really bash terminals. Bash, echo, shell. A built-in variable is where we're at. So, whoops. Still the word echo. So working in a bash shell, there's different ones. The command prompt batch shells that we just saw for command prompt, and PowerShell is an extension of command prompt, so it knows what to do with the batch shells. PowerShell actually also knows the ones I'm getting ready right here, and it has its own format of shell script. So PowerShell was a really nice one. But if you have Linux, you would use a shell script. In class.sh instead of .bat. But the same general idea. Whoops, I need to create that. I'm going to use this text editor Vim or VI. It's right in the terminal. It's quick and easy to write with. And I'll use that text editor to create in class.sh. Then I can add a couple instructions. Hit I to go into insert mode. So like if I try to type, nothing's coming in. So I have to push I. Wait. Okay, what's going on here? Let me try that again. I go in here, I push I to go into insert mode. So now I can type. I don't know why it's not set. I was expecting to just say some things at the bottom, but it's not. Okay, that's just completely glitching out. Let me try a different one. VI second try at .sh. Right here, I should be able to insert some stuff and echo the words back again. There's slight differences. In this case, what I want to echo has to be wrapped in quotation marks. In the batch file earlier, that didn't have to be. And still do things. I don't think I have a browser installed on here. I can try Firefox-ESR with the, again, pass in the ivylearn.ivytech.edu and get all those instructions. So instructions, just like we were typing those terminal, just the bash syntax this time. Now hit escape and then colon WQ to write and quit or save and close. There's terminology we ended up using after the 70s. We'll do this sudo apt install Firefox -ESR. I don't think that was the right password. There we go. Yes. I don't think I have Firefox on here, so I should probably install a browser on the Linux machine so that that script does something other than just crash. It'll just take a second. The ESR is the lightweight Firefox. It would take a little bit longer to install the full version of Firefox. But this is still taking longer than I thought it was going to take for some reason. Got that on Ubuntu. And Mac OS also has one, but Mac OS uses bash terminals, or it does another bash terminal called ZSH. And most people just do the .sh scripts on Mac because it's easier than what Apple put together. Do I have Firefox on here? Nope, I don't have it on Ubuntu either. Well, that's taking a long time. I don't know why that's taking so long to install. I thought it would be quicker, but we have a lot of the same similar instructions, so we can change directories. Do I have any directories? Make a directory, call it documents. Then change into that directory. I must have just reset my Linux machines. I do that periodically because I break things and I wipe them and come back in. Then change into there. There's a command. We don't have to have a text editor make stuff. We use touch, which is like touching a file, and that can be used to create a file. So touch new file.txt, and we list that out. We see the new file there. Change directory, list out what's there, or list out -L is with details, so we can see the permission on them and all that. That's almost done. I was just passing time until that needed done. We can change those permissions. Like maybe we, so this is the owner of the file. Then owner, user, and then the public at large. So this is other people that might be on this computer that have a different user account. They can read it but not write to it. Or the public at large can't write to it. So maybe we want to change that. So I could say, and see Chris is the owner. That's my account. So I could change the change mode. Those things add up together. So we have execute, read, and write. One of them's worth 4, one of them's worth 2, and one of them's worth 1. Remember those first 3 columns? And when we're looking at binary, we add those together to get a number. So 646, I think, with new file.txt. And now if I list that out, now the owner and the public at large can write to the file, but another user on this computer can only read the file. So change the permissions and things like that. And we add these numbers together. Reading is worth 4 points, writing is worth 2 points, and then executing is worth 1 point. So we can add those up to 7. And that's how you, and it owner, group, and public. And just choose what permission each one gets. And this is probably installed now. Okay. And we have to do that for this file, because now if I list this out, we have this second.sh. But right now it's just a text file. In Linux, that in Windows, those file extensions told Windows what to do with it. But in Linux, the file extension is completely arbitrary. That's just to help us keep track of it. So I have to change permissions so that things can be done with it. So I'll go to ls-l. I'm still the owner, and there's only read and write permissions. I need some execute permissions on there somewhere. So if I change mode to 755, so I was going to add the X in. So we have a 4 and a 2, so we'll add one more to get a 7. Then we have read and read, so 4 and 4, add one more to get a 5. So now we have execute permissions on this file everywhere. Whatever it was called, second.sh. And now if I list it out, it's color coded in green, so we know it's something different. Folders would be blue, and the one I'm particularly looking at. And then dot means the current directory. So look at the current directory slash second.sh. So look at the current directory, then look at this file, and this particular file is executable, so the computer is going to be able to run that immediately. But the same idea, hello world, and then open Firefox, which should be quicker when it's not the very first opening of it. And it said there was a library missing. That's weird. I must have downloaded. I didn't tell it where to. We saw repositories earlier. I didn't tell it which repository to download from. So it apparently grabbed one that is missing something. Missing Chrome. That's an odd thing for Firefox to be missing.
It's not a Chromium-based browser, is it?
They work some of that in. Because the Chromium engine has some really, really nice parts. No need to throw them away. But it's not fully Chromium like Edge is just the same thing as Chrome with a different interface put on it. Update listener. So it's using Chromium. It's using the check for updates from Chromium. So they're probably like, oh, that's better than ours. So we'll just use Chromium while we update ours. Mozilla will do that sometimes. They do stuff that works. Other people refer to Microsoft and Google will refer to Firefox or Mozilla, the company that makes Firefox. They'll refer to them like they're in a competition, and they'll just do whatever works. Mozilla and Apache just release software that works, even though and others just refer to them like they're competitors or something. Drag them into that mess. Does that make sense though? See how we can pass those in, just save them to a text file. Then we have those instructions. Wherever you're heading in IT, I guarantee you that skill will be, that skill is something that's going to show up. So that's something you might want to practice on the software development. Actual homework assignment is, whether it's that one to submit, add one line to that. The actual homework assignment is, it tells you what to type, it tells you line by line what to type. Follow along instructions. Maybe get some practice with that batch scripting or shell scripting, because wherever you're heading in IT, that will be useful for you. Anything else on the list for today? I think that was everything. So school closed on the 4th. No class on Tuesday. Ashley visited. So remember the Ivy Plus Career Link. People help around to help get jobs after school and internships in school. And for you guys up in Indianapolis, there's an equivalent department there. Meridian Center. It's in the North Meridian Center on the 3rd floor. I cannot remember the name of that for nothing. But yeah, 3rd floor of the North Meridian Center is where they're at, but anybody can direct you up that way. I'm checking that thing with Office. One person sent me an email in here for the rest of y'all. He said when he tried to install Office 365, they were willing to charge him. Has anybody else got a message saying, okay, we'll look at that right afterwards, because the school already paid for it. It's not like Microsoft gave you a free version. The school paid for it, so you should not be charged for that. Look at batch scripts, talked about debugging, and Grace Hopper, if your name to know. So that was everything I had on my list. Any questions? Okay, I assume a few seconds of silence means no questions. If you have any, let me know. Otherwise, you have a great weekend. If you're taking Monday off too, to enjoy the 4-day weekend, 4-day holiday weekend. Have a good long weekend and everybody enjoy the holiday. I will see you on Thursday.